Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick. We got Harrison and we got Sean back from his 2-week hiatus. How we doing, fellas?
What's up, man? Good to be back, boys.
Awesome. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
really getting nervous there, Sean, that we went on that trip together and we somehow scared you away and you weren't coming back. So it's good to see you.
No, man, it's good to be back. I'm happy to be here. It was went to Italy for a week and then took us a little extra time to get back there for some flight issues, but we're back and I'm ready to roll.
Awesome.
Yeah, it hasn't been the same. I'm sure Harrison is tired of just seeing my ugly mug every Monday night. So
I would be for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, we made it work the best we could, Nick.
yeah, absolutely. All right. Before we get going, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can share our videos there, our posts. You can also subscribe on YouTube, along with subscribing on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a listen. You can give us 5 stars, get us up in the ratings there. If you would, thank you.
We would appreciate it.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned last week, like we keep pumping the reels out. So thanks for your support on that. Keep sharing those, liking those, and hope you guys enjoy the little snippets that we put out. So, all right. Leading off, we are going to start off in San Diego. I think that's Spanish for. Anyways, moving on.
Easy.
So,
San Diego is Spanish for no TV.
yeah, right. So Bally Sports is all done in San Diego. Diamond Sports is the parent company. Is that correct, Harrison?
Yeah, they they run Bally Sports San Diego and actually own the TV rights, or they have the contract for the TV rights, I should say.
So they are all done, and that means their basic cable package, people can't watch the Padres on basic cable there or through Bally Sports. So MLB TV stepped in. They lifted the blackout restrictions for viewers there, and it's been able to reach something like 2 million more viewers now that they've lifted that blackout restriction from that network. So is this the first step in MLB doing this hopefully across the board? Because I would like to see some Orioles games here at some point. But is this the first step that the MLB is taking to hopefully like get rid of these regional networks?
Well, we had talked about this back in spring training. I think MLB had brought this person in. I'm blanking on the name now. To look at beginning to get around some of these blackout issues and find ways to better generate revenue off these TV contracts. And although Diamond Sports Group walking away from this contract wasn't necessarily in MLB's plan, it certainly gives them the template now to start to figure this out and see how it would work. I do think that, for example, when MLB looked at it, they can more than double the distribution of the Padres games in their local market by getting rid of these blackout restrictions. So MLB's looking at it as we can actually get to another 1 million or 2 more people than we can before. A great example is Hawaii. Hawaii is technically in their blackout area. You couldn't get much farther away from San Diego than Hawaii. But you do have a lot of people that are from San Diego that have gone there or vice versa. So there is opportunity here for MLB to figure this out, get the game in front of more people. This was definitely not their plan, but it might be a good opportunity to try to figure out how this might work if they were to go do this in other markets. Because Bally has rights in like 10 or 12 markets.
Quite a few.
They're in a lot of
markets. A third of the league.
I said
It's like a third of the league.
Yeah, I think I read 19. 19
Wow.
regional sports networks under the Bally Sports brand.
Oh, it's they got all different names too. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so 19. So I saw here that it was Sean and I were talking before that it was, if you remember, Fox Sports West out there. Like Bally Sports is fairly new. It's not very old.
Which is a rebrand though, isn't it?
Well, yeah. So Disney acquired Fox, and then they offloaded the Fox Sports networks, and then Disney sold the networks that rebranded to Bally Sports.
Yeah.
So in 2019, they paid $10.6 billion with a B, $1 billion. And this also came with $8 billion in debt.
Yeah.
So they thought, if I'm reading this correctly, they thought they could pay the 10.6 and make up that $8 billion debt. Is that correct?
Yeah. They thought that they're buying a revenue stream and a profit stream at a discount that would allow them to actually over time be able to chip away at that debt. Unfortunately, what they learned as they got in some of these markets, and San Diego is clearly one of them, and DSG's whole argument is we're going into a bankruptcy restructuring right now. We're not going bankrupt. We've got significant cash on hand, but we're using this as an opportunity to make sense of what we have. And they view the Padres contract as unprofitable, and therefore they're taking this as a chance to dump it. They owe the Padres $60 million for the remainder of the year. They do not plan to make it. They've gone through the court system. They were ordered to pay it in court, and they're basically told, bankruptcy restructuring, we have no intention of making that payment. But the flip side of it is the Padres have come out and said that, that $60 million is about 20% of their revenue. If they don't get that $60 million back in one in some shape or form, the Padres will not make money this year. They will actually go negative. The ownership group will have to borrow to fund operations. So the Padres are a little nervous. They're not going to get that money because that certainly blows a massive hole in their budget. MLB is trying to figure that out. Diamond wants to walk away because it's not profitable. But that was a $1.2 billion 20-year contract that Diamond is trying to walk away from. Those are pretty good sized numbers for a TV deal in a relatively small market of San Diego.
Yeah. It also says here that Diamond Sports Group had skipped payments for other MLB teams, so including the Diamondbacks.
Yep.
In a push to obtain the streaming rights. But like you said, the court had ordered them to at least make partial payments to those teams.
Diamond is arguing that if they can't stream these games online, which MLB won't let them do because it's in conflict with MLB TV, if they can't stream them online because a lot of people are cutting the cord and going online, then they don't see the contract as something they can continue with. So they're trying to make an argument that the landscape has changed. MLB streaming games, why can't they do that? Because that wasn't part of the original deal. And either way, I mean, it's kind of a weird, ugly situation. Diamond's not going to make that payment. MLB's got to step in and figure this out. Hopefully, it's Noah Garden is the new revenue officer. I couldn't think of his name. Hopefully that they can take his experience with TV and find a way to make this work, make the Padres whole, make the broadcast better, and use this as a template to go into other markets because Diamond will exit other markets. This will not be the first team to lose their TV rights or lose their broadcaster.
It might be the first. It won't be the only.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. It will be the first. Won't be the only. My bad.
Yeah, that's right.
There will be others for sure, and MLB's got to figure it out fast.
Yeah, but
what's cool though is that Don Orsillo goes nowhere. He's actually technically employed by the team, so he'll still be broadcasting on MLB TV. The production crew is actually all employed by the team, so we don't lose Donio.
That's cool. That's awesome. I don't have the list of all the other ones, but just off the top of my head, you got Arizona, you got Atlanta, you got Cincinnati, Cleveland.
It's pretty much all the
West Coast.
It's a lot of the Midwest.
Yeah, it's a lot of the Midwest.
Yeah.
Texas. I think Texas is too, the Rangers.
Yep, makes sense. I think Astros. So yeah, Midwest and beyond.
Yeah.
Although I think the Rockies was isn't
the
it like
Rockies they're still Root Sports.
Yeah, yep. Root Sports.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's the handful of major markets that have their own regional networks, and then a handful of other kind of oddballs that are either with Fox with Fox Sports or with like a Roots in Colorado. Everybody else is with Bally.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I feel that I've said this before, but MLB TV should be exactly like NFL Sunday Ticket, or these season-long subscription services shouldn't have blackouts. If you're paying for the entire package, you should be getting your teams. Like, I should not be blacked out of the Orioles and the Nationals. You guys should not be blacked out of the Red Sox. If you buy MLB TV, you're in that market. You should still be able to watch them. That's how I feel. And I think MLB is leaning towards that, or MLB TV is leaning towards that and trying to get to there. But all these regional sports networks are in the way, and everyone's afraid that they're going to lose money if they do this.
Yeah. My understanding of how this works is that MLB TV, so people buy MLB TV, they pay Major League Baseball for that. Major League Baseball puts that money in the revenue share bucket and it gets distributed amongst the league. The problem is the handful of teams that control their own regional networks, Boston, New York,
Baltimore.
Chicago, Baltimore, are like, well, we don't get any of that revenue share money.
Right.
So if you lift the blackout, there's absolutely no way to make us whole. Whereas other teams, no big deal. It's they're getting revenue share money anyways. You can argue it's in there. So it's the handful of big markets that are the real sticklers for the for the TV rights and Bally Sports. I did find the list, Nick. The Padres were one of 14 teams broadcast on Bally Sports. The others were the Diamondbacks, Braves, Reds, Guardians, Tigers, Royals, Angels, Marlins, Brewers, Twins, Cardinals, Rays, and Rangers.
Okay.
It's a lot of teams.
Yeah. Dang. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like you said, this is the first. I don't think it's going to be the last. It's going to be interesting how the TV landscape looks in the next year or two, even, and how some of these fans are accessing games. But yeah,
MLB's been talking about, for like the last 6 or 7 months that they wanted to figure this out. Well, they just got a kind of hot potato thrown in their lap to go figure it out. So now's their chance.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's move on to Jacob deGrom hitting the 60-day DL. IL. The DL hasn't been the DL since like 1998.
I still call it that sometimes.
Right?
So do I.
the 60-day IL. This is the best pitcher that never was.
Yeah.
Correct?
Probably. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the same old story with him. And for the Rangers to even remotely pay that much money for him, yes, we knew it was a risk, but I mean, my God.
Well, and not to jump ahead and steal a headline here, Nick, but like, we're watching this whole Steven Strasburg thing develop, and his contract's not insured.
Right.
It makes you wonder, was somebody willing to insure deGrom's contract? Is that insured? Or is that also uninsured? Because if you with deGrom's injury history is not a whole lot better than Strasburg's was when he signed that contract. They had very similar paths.
Yeah. I don't know.
I feel like if deGrom's was an uninsured contract, I feel like that would have kind of made headlines a little bit.
You'd think so.
Think?
Yeah.
But at the same
Like,
time,
don't you think, like,
nobody mentioned Strasburg was uninsured until
Yeah,
just
but-
now, though.
But it's a different scenario. Like deGrom left his home, his original team, to go chase the money in free agency and all that. Strasburg was a national forever. I mean, it's just the only team he ever played for. Like, it's just a bit different. Like, you would think that if a guy like deGrom left the Mets, went and chased free agency, signed the big ticket down in Texas, and it was uninsured, like, you'd think that would make headlines. But what do I know?
December
it
22.
looks like-
It's December 22. It says $185 million 5-year deal includes a pair of conditional options. One that protects the Rangers against an injury. So that's from the Boston Globe, and so that's telling me that it's insured.
Yeah, so it's one of those voidable year situations.
Yeah,
That's how they got
right.
around it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, I mean, do you take a chance on this guy and have him come in and throw 30 innings and then be done for the year?
Well, not anymore.
Well,
No,
obviously not.
the Rangers did.
Yeah, I mean, the Rangers, but that's why the Rangers also went and re-signed Martin Perez. That's why they also went out and got Nathan Eovaldi. It's why the year before they were happy when John Gray was available and they went and got him. Like, this wasn't just like we're going to hang all our hopes on deGrom. This was, we're going to go out and get a really good Hall of Fame manager, Bruce Bochy. We're a team that's going to hit, we're going to score some runs, and we're going to get some really good pitching.
Yep.
Depth, not just the best pitcher on the market, which he was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy in hindsight for us to say, like, oh, that was a dumb contract. But when they signed it, all three of us said, if he could stay healthy, this is a game changer.
100%.
I mean,
absolutely.
but they were smart to go also get Eovaldi, also re-sign Martin Perez. So they've got some depth.
Yep.
But no, I mean, I think to me, deGrom had one more chance to prove that he could pitch a full season, and he just can't. He just can't do it.
Yeah. Does he come back at all this year? If you're the Rangers, do you try to push him back?
I mean,
60
I think
days
it all-
puts us end of August.
well, he's
I think
eligible.
quite
He's
hon-
eligible to come back, I believe, June 28th because it's retroactive to when he first went on. So technically they
Right.
added like 3.5 weeks to his current stint.
Okay.
Quite honestly, I think it would depend on what their intentions are for the future.
Yeah.
Like if their intent, if the reported protections that they have against the contract that lets them get out of the contract per injury, whatever, if they're planning on moving on from him at the end of the year, then yeah, if he wants
Yeah.
to come back and he can help you in a playoff run, then sure. But if you have to stick with that, like if that contract you're stuck with for another 3 years, I don't know, man. I mean, if you're still putting up the second best record in baseball without him,
Yeah.
I think you might just shelve him for the rest of the year and then just hope you can get one good season. I mean, I know that's crazy because of what I just said, but hope you can just get like, you know what I mean? Like, I just think it's all going to depend on what their intentions are with him moving forward.
Yeah.
And what his intentions are too. I mean, dude, all joking aside, there's nobody more frustrated about this than Jacob deGrom.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
He's a
I mean, this
competitor.
poor guy. I mean, all the joking that I just feel bad for the guy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's all accounts. I mean, no one works harder than him. No one cares more. Like he just wants to go out and perform for his teammates, and he just can't do it. So I feel bad. Like he may not even want to. He might just say, you know what, I'm gonna hang him up. Like if I can't stay healthy, what am I doing?
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah, you're risking yourself for a Steven Strasburg type injury down the road.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and then just to jump gears. I mean, I know we tied Strasburg together a few minutes ago, but like the reports that are coming out about him, I mean, this dude may not even be able to play catch with his kids ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's awful.
Significant nerve damage is what the
Like you don't want to see that for anybody.
no.
You know?
No.
And I mean, this dude put it on the line for that team to win the World Series. Put it on the line. And we talked about it when we were down there. They do not win that World Series without him.
No.
Not even
They
close.
don't come close. They
Nope,
don't
not
come close. I mean, he put it on the line for them. I mean, this is what he gets for the. I mean, there's a decent chance he never gets to play catch with his kids. That's awful.
Well, and
So I mean, Jake might look at that, and Jake might be like, you know what, F that. Like, I don't want to deal with that, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. He's made enough money.
Oh, exactly. And at some point, you look at quality of life and you say, at what point do I just say enough's enough and I don't want to put any more damage onto this arm? But when we were down in Washington, I was talking to you guys. I'd read an article about Strasburg, and there's a belief that he was going to retire at the end of this year anyways, because he was going to then become pension eligible and fully vested and all this stuff. So the belief was at the end of this year, he was going to retire no matter what, because he knew he wasn't going to come back and pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the real reason for that story is now coming out, which is the fact that now medically, like, they just know he's never going to pitch. And there could reach a point where DeGrom gets to the same spot, which is like, you're going to go out there and that next pitch might be the last one you ever throw. That may be the last baseball you ever pick up. And at some point, when you just say, okay, enough's enough.
And you can look and say, like, on a philosophical level, like that's true with everybody. And I guess that's fair. But like with a guy like Jacob deGrom, that's a very real possibility.
It is.
Right? Like that's not like a full philosophical, like, what if? Like, well, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. But like, no, like DeGrom legitimately, it's possible that the next time he takes the mound is the last time he ever throws a baseball.
I've like half joking, but I'm like half serious, where it's like the guy's talent exceeds what his body can hold, which,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's such a weird thing to kind of almost wrap your mind around, but like, he has so much talent that his body can't physically contain it. Like, it just seems like,
which is,
he outpitches his body. He outdrives his headlights. Like, seriously, like, I mean,
no, it's true though, but which is funny because you look at a guy like DeGrom pitch, and so much what he does just looks effortless. Like his mechanics are flawless. It just looks effortless. You're like, oh man, how could this guy ever get hurt? He doesn't even look like he's trying that hard. But then when you think of like all the sequencing of that body and all that, it is wild. It's a shame that there's a guy that has that much talent that just can't keep it together for very long.
It's crazy.
And it's not like it's a training problem because it's followed him around. It's followed him around for years, different organizations. This literally just is a guy with really crappy luck or really bad tendons or whatever it is. But he is a lot of people are starting to wonder, do you see him again this year? Is this really the beginning of the end for DeGrom? Is this his slow, painful exit from baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a yes, right? Is this the beginning of the end? I think even the most optimistic DeGrom fans can probably tell you that. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, how do you look at a situation like this again this year?
Right.
Another trip to the long term. I mean, this isn't just a couple of 5 days. This is like a retroactive 60-day. Like, he's going to be out for a little while again.
Yeah.
Like, how do you look at this and not say, like, with even a somewhat skewed vantage point, but how do you not say, like, this is the beginning of the end?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to miss 9 starts.
And I'm not so sure it's going to be a long, painful end. I think it's going to be quite an abrupt one because, like, once Texas, how do I want to say this? Like, once Texas runs their course, if you will, who else is going to pony up? Why would you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah. I mean, like, why would you?
Yeah. It makes no sense.
So he's due to come back at the end of June. Is that?
Well,
he's
eligible to come back at the end of
to come
June.
back.
But this could be one of those things where 60 becomes 120. He went from 10 to 10 to 15 to 30 to 60. Like they just kept dragging it out.
And we see it with every DeGrom rehab. It's
always
DeGrom throws from flat ground. DeGrom looks good. DeGrom suffers a setback.
It's
right, and then
it's the same
that's
story.
just what we see. I mean, it's the same every single time.
Yep.
Whether it's tightness in the forearm or whether it's soreness in the shoulder or whether it's tingly in the fingers, like it's always something. There's always a setback.
Yeah.
So he's eligible for June 20, whatever. But I'd bet the mortgage he ain't back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much of this? I mean, I obviously don't know the guy personally, but how much of this is pain tolerance or lack of pain tolerance? Or is it like a legit injury? You know, I mean, like you have some guys that can go out and pitch through it and they're fine. Like, is this significant structural damage or is this Jacob deGrom always wanting to be in top form shape, all the time?
Yeah, I mean,
pitch? Like,
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't think none of us know. I mean, we don't know the answer to that question. I would say that if I was Jacob deGrom, if I were Jacob deGrom right now, I would say, look at the guy we just talked about, Steven Strasburg, who clearly had pain that he was able to go out and push through and battle through for his teammates. And look at where he is right now at.
Yeah, it's fair. Fair point.
What's he, 31, 32 years old? I mean, that's crazy. And listen, hats off to him. I mean, he let his nuts drop and he did what he had to do for his teammates. But like
he sold out. He sold out. He battled through
a whole lot of pain, and look at where he is.
There's 34.
34. And I'm not so sure if I were Jake that would be worth it.
Fair.
That's all. And who knows? I mean, I don't know. It's interesting though, and Harrison touched on it too, and I've been saying it for years, and we've said it 100 times on this show. His mechanics are flawless.
Right.
Like, how does somebody with such flawless mechanics continue to have arm problems? Like, that's why when you're a kid, they teach you the mechanics to practice so that you don't hurt your arm all the time. Like, it's almost like it doesn't make any sense because it's like his mechanic. You know who should have consistent arm problems like Jacob deGrom? Chris Sale.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it caught up to him, right? Like, Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson should have DeGrom problems.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense.
Well, Randy Johnson only had to throw the ball 20 feet by the time he released it. So there's the difference there.
Well, here's
some of those pictures though with the torque on his elbow. It's like, how did that thing not snap off? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. Interestingly enough, Jacob deGrom is 1 month older than Steven Strasburg. And they share a very similar path to kind of where they're at. The difference is Strasburg was in the league, long before deGrom was. So I think that Strasburg had more wear and tear. But when you look at the history of injuries,
well, deGrom was a college shortstop.
Right. Yeah. I mean, deGrom got into the league 4 years later than Strasburg did.
Right, but but you would think a guy like DeGrom has more bullets in his arm because he didn't start throwing the innings
Right.
pitched until his junior year at Stetson because he was a shortstop.
Yep.
Yeah,
totally.
like Strasburg was this bona fide like number one stud from his freshman year at San Diego State. Like this guy was the guy. So
Yes.
it's interesting in the way that you'd think that DeGrom would be the one that would outlast him a little bit more simply because he just had that fewer innings pitched leading up to the major league career. But it's baseball, man.
Yeah.
It is, and it is funny how it works. But Strasburg, to me, Strasburg is kind of where DeGrom likely ends up. DeGrom is falling apart like Strasburg did towards the end.
Yeah.
Then Strasburg had the really big injury, and that was really kind of all she wrote. But Strasburg also had a 4-year head start because he was up to our team when he was 26. So little different, but you're right. DeGrom didn't have all the wear and tear on his arm for all those years like Strasburg did through, high level NCAA baseball and high school and all the travel stuff and all that. It just wasn't the same. The history before the majors just wasn't the same.
Yeah, it's just too bad. Probably two of the best pitchers of this generation going out the way they are is like it's tough to watch. Jacob DeGrom's must see TV every time that guy's on the mound, and his dominance against these hitters that are the best in the world, and it's nothing to him. Just sucks.
Well, and I heard somebody ask the question the other day. Somebody from the media asked the question of if this really is like the beginning of the end for DeGrom, is he a Hall of Famer? And I'm like, the guy hasn't even won 100 games. Like, no, he's not even in the conversation.
Strasburg's a shame. It's a shame with him too, because it's. I knew where this conversation was going, so I pulled the stats up a few minutes ago, and it's a guy who obviously whole career in Washington, right? Number 1 overall pick, and he was the guy. He was the guy when they moved to Washington. Like he was gonna bring them to the promised land. He was gonna be their Nolan. Yeah, he was their Nolan Ryan. He was all of it. Only 113 wins, right? But he was on some really bad teams, like some really, really bad baseball teams. Yeah. And we can look in his career. He's pitched for 13 seasons. Now, let's really go 11 because we'll take out 2022 where he had 1 start and 2020 where he had 1 start. Or even – so we'll go through 2019 because 2020 he had 1 start, 2021 he had 3, and then 2022 he had 1. So through 2019, he had 2 seasons where he had an ERA over 3.5. Yep. And it was 3.6 and 3.7. So it's not like it was in the 4s.
Close.
Right? We're talking seasons where he was 8-9 with a 2.9 ERA. Or he was 14-11 with a 3.1 ERA.
Yep.
15-4. So, in 2017, he was an all-star. It's just he struggled. Wins and losses are such a team stat in the sense that, you're not going to win a lot of games if you don't have a good team. But, man, he could shove. And he was pretty consistently good when he was healthy.
Yeah, in 2016, he was 15-4, 17, 15-4, 18, 10-7, 19, 18-6. Guy struck out 200-plus guys 3 times. He was a top 10 guy at his peak. He
was, 1,723 strikeouts for his career.
Yep.
I don't think he's not a Hall of Famer.
No.
But
no, neither one of them are, sadly, because they would have been.
They both had the talent for it.
Yeah, 100%. If you could have given them some more years, they were both going to be Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
But that's part of the Hall of Fame is longevity, right? As much as Sean doesn't like it to count against like Craig Biggio and some of those guys like that, longevity is a thing. These guys, no doubt, have Hall of Fame talent. They just
we can have that Craig Biggio discussion another time.
But I don't know.
It's a tough one. Here's 2 guys that are elite talent that just physically couldn't hold up. But when Strasburg, when they won that World Series, Strasburg gave everything he had. They don't win it without him. DeGrom's never had that opportunity. But I'd like to believe if there's a playoff run that he can get back for, he'll be in it. It's just disappointing to see guys with that level of talent that you never really got to see what they could do over a longer stretch of time.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I know Sean was a little upset earlier in the text when I said if the Texas Rangers makes the playoffs.
Yeah.
But and he's like, if, and I go, yeah, well, they are the Texas Rangers. So
Yeah.
You can't argue that. They are.
Oh, the only counter I will have to that is they have Bruce Bochy.
Yeah. These are not your old Texas Rangers.
This is not the Ron Washington Texas Rangers.
God love Ron.
And I like Ron Washington. This is not the Ron Washington Texas Rangers. I mean, this is a Hall of Fame manager, a guy that one of the best managers of our generation.
For sure.
I mean, a top 3 in my opinion in our generation.
Yeah, easy.
I mean, look at what he's done already in his first year there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the second most wins in baseball. They're a handful of wins behind Tampa Bay.
And they haven't had DeGrom for a month.
Yeah.
They have the highest team batting average, right? I think right now.
Yeah,
and they might be the number 1 pitching staff still too.
Everything they do offensively is dynamite.
Yep.
So yeah, I just think, I mean, I get what you're saying, Nick. I mean, it's June 5th. I mean, I totally get it. And you're right. I mean, if they, if they find themselves in a spot in September where the playoffs are on the line and Jake is ready to come back, I hope we see him and I hope he shoves.
Yep.
But
just don't use this argument against me when I talk about my Diamondbacks in a couple of minutes.
Well, the same argument could be made there, but yeah,
I know. That's why I said you can't use this argument. It's already been used tonight.
Deal.
But I mean, it's just a shame for both of them. Yep. I mean, both of them were must-watch TV every time they were on the mound. I mean, and you kind of wonder in 19 if Strasburg knew that was his swan song. Just the way he pitched and like dug deep. He's like, man, I don't know how much I got left in the tank. I'm gonna put it all out there.
If you're a guy with an injury history like he has, you might be thinking, I may not get another shot. I better give this one everything I got.
And he did.
And I also think he looked at the team, and I don't think these guys are more than just athletes, right? Like they know what's going on. Yeah. And I think Strasburg was one. I think he knew what was going on with that team.
Yeah.
I think he knew that team wasn't running it back. Like they had a shot. It was their one shot. Like that was a team that was in a bad spot with ownership. They were bleeding money. He knew it.
Yep.
He knew it. I mean, he's not a dumb guy.
No.
So I think all those things combined, I absolutely think he battled through a lot of pain. I think earlier in his career, he probably would have said, I don't want to do this.
Right.
But again, he knew this was a shot and he did it, and hats off to him, man. He shoved.
He did. He gave it everything he had. That dude, he was so good. He threw so many pitches in those playoffs. He was not going to give the ball up. He was so good.
Yeah. All right. We are going to move on to our favorite matchups of last week. Maybe not necessarily favorites, but just matchups of last week. So let's just start with the Beantown, the hometown Red Sox here. They just ended their series with the Rays tonight with another loss. They lose 3 out of 4 to the Rays. How are we feeling about the boys of summer so far? Are we still kind of on the fence? Are we still? I mean, we're now in last place again. I say we, like I'm.
They're exactly where I thought they'd be. About a 500 team in the basement.
500 team. I had them as a few games over 500. I had them at 186. I think I said at the beginning of the season we did our predictions, right? 86 wins, I think I said, or 85, something like that. So, I mean, they're 30 and 30 through 60. So what? That's on pace for 82 and 82. So I'm a few games off. Harrison had him right at 500, right? 81, 80 wins, somewhere around there. So you're right on. Again, I think it's a team that when the way the hitting goes, the team will go. I mean, it's a team that
100%
will score runs, and if they run themselves, like they score enough runs, they'll win enough games. It's a shame that you really should have split with Tampa. You won the game 1 of the doubleheader, and then you lose game 2. Kenley Jansen comes in a tie game, which I didn't necessarily disagree with. It's tough. You give up 2 in the 9th, you end up losing, what was it, 3-1 or 4-2, something like that was the final. I don't know. I mean, it's you lose 3 out of 4 in the standings, but they played them closer than that. Like this, you didn't get blown out in these games.
No.
I mean, I do think there's enough. It's still early enough in the season, although we are getting to that point. But it's still early enough where you can still take some of these things out of the losses. They're getting some guys back. They're getting healthy. We talked about Trevor Story maybe being able to do the Bryce Harper thing as a DH, and I think that'll add some pop in the lineup. Like I think they're okay. It's just, Chris Sale going down, I think really bummed out the team more than they'd probably be willing to admit. I mean, he was starting to look like it's himself again. He had 5 or 6 good starts in a row where it was like, all right.
And he looked good. Like
really
Chris Sale.
Real good. The velocity was bad. And then he goes down and you see him all bummed out in the press conference after the game. He was dejected. I mean, how does that not go through the locker room? Like, how does that not, he's a leader. Like, how does that? So I don't know. I just think I'm on the fence on him. I'm frustrated by them, but I'm trying to cut them some slack and, give them another week or so. And, we'll see. They're not winning the division, certainly, and they're probably not making the playoffs. But I still think this is a team, and I'll hold out as long as I can. I still think it's a team that can get to 85, 86 wins. A little bit over 5.
But they are responding to what their manager is telling them to do. Like their manager on Saturday night was like, listen, or Sunday night was like, our defense is atrocious right now. We need to tighten it up.
It's
right.
Bad.
But it is.
And then tonight, I don't know if you saw the plays tonight.
Yeah.
Kike
and
Verdugo
Verdugo.
robs the home run, and then Verdugo the next inning goes over and pulls one out of the stands there too. I mean, I think it's putting guys in the right spot to succeed. Kike is a good enough athlete to play short, but he's not a shortstop.
He's not a shortstop, but it's not the athleticism with Kike. Kike's got 13 errors on the season. 12 of them are throwing errors.
Right.
That's the problem with Kike. It's not his athleticism and covering ground. It's not his baseball IQ and being in the right spot. It's throwing the ball to first, which I don't know, pretty important part of shortstop. It's not the athleticism for him. It's not, and that's what frustrates me. Is he is a great athlete.
Well,
and he's a very smart baseball guy.
He gets to the ball. He just can't get it over there.
He just can't make the throw.
Yep.
I clench up every time he gets a ground ball, and it's not.
He's got great
range.
range.
Throwing it over there.
He's got great range for a center fielder over there.
Yep. So I mean, I don't know where I stand with them. I mean, Brian Bale looked decent today. And then the next inning, he'll come out and he'll give up 6 and 4. Like, just inconsistent. He's young. I just don't know. I guess I'm middle of the road with them. Just how the record is.
The tail of the Red Sox is exactly what we've been talking about since the very beginning of the season. They go where the offense goes. If the offense hits, they're okay because the pitching is not good. And to give you an example, the Red Sox have scored the 4th most runs in Major League Baseball. 4th most in all of baseball. They've also given up the 7th most. Their run differential is plus. They've scored 306 runs. Their run differential is +9. I mean, their pitching is awful. They are 25th in the league in pitching. Their starting pitching is horrendous. It's been horrendous all year. It continues to be horrendous. And they'll get these little spurts where they look good for 3 or 4 starts, and then they look like crap. They've again. And I'm 100% on board with where Heim's going with this team. And I look at this year as a bridge year, and there's a bunch of random pieces that won't be here next year, which I'm totally cool with. But this pitching staff is patchwork. They're not good. They're not highly effective. The team scores entirely too many runs to not win more ball games, but they just don't have the starting pitching depth. And Sale going down, that's a big setback because he finally looked good. Putting Kluber back in the rotation is painful. Whitlock looked good the other day. Pavetta's been a total dud this year. Kluber's been a total dud this year. Sale finally looked good. Hauk has been pretty good generally.
Hauk's problem is Hauk looks really good first time through the lineup.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
And this, to me, that's why he is tailor made for that middle relief, stretch the innings out.
Yeah, the 5, 6, 7 guy.
He's a 6th and 7th inning guy. Perfect.
He is fantastic, like facing guys one time. It's crazy the splits between him, and then he goes around the second, third time. It's like, dude, this is a totally different pitcher. So he looks good. Like he's, but Cora's not stupid. Cora knows that. I mean, these guys can read stats just like we can read stats. they're in a tough spot because they just don't have the depth.
It's all he's got.
And this
And,
is-
and Paxton has looked good, but another guy coming off
Mhm.
major injury, you don't know exactly what you're going to get from him. It's very patchwork, and they're doing what they can with what they got. But
You know who it is? This is last year's Texas Rangers. That's who this team
no,
is.
it totally is. That's totally
That's-
fair.
Go look at last year's
Yeah.
Texas Rangers. This
Yep.
is what they were.
Yeah,
Which,
they
by the
scored a
way,
bunch of
won
runs, gave up even more.
85 wins last year. But yeah, that's who
Yep.
they are.
Yep.
That's who they are.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I mean,
I
it's-
still think this team wins something between, I don't know, 80 and 85 games.
yeah,
They don't make the
Yeah.
playoffs, but I think that
they
you're
finish in last. They
yeah,
finish in last.
totally. But you're getting a chance to see guys like Cassis every day, see a guy like Bayo develop. Like they're doing some things to help that I think will benefit them in the year after. But this is very much a bridge year. They got a lot of young guys.
Mhm.
They're trying to figure out what they got. Guys in the minors trying to figure out how far away they are. It's a bridge year. Connor Wong has actually looked really good for stretches.
Yeah, he's had a sneaky, pretty good year.
Yeah, he has.
He
I
had a
mean,
very good year.
and this is a guy most of us threw away in the Mookie Betts deal, thinking he was junk when he was never going to turn into anything. He's actually been pretty good. Like this, I feel like there's a lot of like sampling going on right now to figure out who's going to be on this team next year.
And I'll tell you, silver lining, kind of bright spot on the year that has been a bit frustrating. Alex Verdugo has answered the bell from day one this season. That he has been fantastic. I mean, this is Alex Cora kind of called him out and kind of pointed the finger to him to say, hey, we need guys like Alex need to be better. They need to be more consistent. They need to be better. And he has been. I mean, you look at, obviously would I rather Mookie? Yeah. But you take that trade now and you look at what Verdugo is now and you look at what Connor Wong is now, it's not that terrible anymore.
No, it's not as bad as it looked like before.
No, it doesn't. I mean, you got yourself, Verdugo's an all-star.
Yep.
Verdugo's an all-star outfielder. And you've got, Connor Wong's not really an all-star level really yet. But, I mean, this is a guy that has some serious pop, some serious offense. And, I mean, he does quite well defensively. I still don't know. I don't think I love him calling games. But, I mean, he's still young. He's still working with the staff. He's still kind of getting used to that stuff. But he's got a hose from behind the plate.
He does.
I could watch his pop time.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see it live someday. Like I need to get up there and watch it because
hose.
It's insane.
Yeah, and he's the kind of catcher they've been looking for a while. And I almost sent you guys a message yesterday after the game. I think Verdugo had a couple of hits, and I looked and he's almost hitting 300. I was like, holy cow! Like he is very quietly, kind of very sneaky, having a really good season. And hitting out of the leadoff spot. He's not a leadoff guy.
He's like top 3 in the American League in doubles too. Like it's not just like slap singles.
Very
he's
sneaky.
putting balls in gaps. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of good there. There's a lot of question marks. I think this team kind of is what we've seen. They're going to be Jekyll and Hyde. They're going to be hot. They're going to be cold.
I mean, we can go back to episodes in March, and we had said this team is going to be fun to watch for 12 games at a time, and then extremely frustrating for 12 games at a time. Like this is what they're going to do.
That's exactly what they are.
I mean, it's been spot on so far. So.
I mean, even then, we came together after our trip, and the Red Sox were on the West Coast for their West Coast trip.
Yep.
And we're like, they had a good West Coast trip, and then you break it down, and they were 4-5.
Yeah,
because they got swept by the Angels. You're like, okay,
how's that happen?
Right? You beat San Diego 2 out of 3. You beat the Diamondbacks 2 out of 3.
I don't know. Beating San Diego doesn't feel like any kind of accomplishment anymore.
You just got absolutely like manhandled by the Angels. I mean, it was just a weird West Coast trip, but you felt good. You're like, all right, we did well on that West Coast trip, and then you look at it and you're like, oh shit, we were 4-5. Like that. Yeah, not necessarily what we wanted, but that's what we got. So yeah,
it's amazing to think the Red Sox are 512 games out in the East. Like that. That's just how good Tampa Bay is.
It's pretty nuts. Yeah, but I'm going to take a second to brag about the Diamondbacks. This is my my weekly Diamondbacks. The Braves went into Arizona this week, and they played some really good games. The Diamondbacks should have won 2 out of 3 against them, but they were 1 out away, and freaking Eddie Rosario hits a grand slam
yeah.
and 2 outs in the ninth to
Sure
bust that
does.
one open to 8-4.
That was a huge hit.
And I was like, God dang. But again, man, I know it's early, but if you haven't watched this team like consistently, like they are a ton of fun. These guys are hot right now. They have a slew of young guys that they keep cycling in and out of AAA and up in the big leagues. Some of them have some really good stuff. Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly are pitching lights out right now.
They
and
are
just I could tell Marte
Team USA stud Merrill Kelly.
Yep.
Absolute stud. But Ketel Marte is the heart and soul behind that team. And that kid's a lot of fun to watch. He is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, man, they're good. My my NL Manager of the Year prediction is looking pretty good right now.
Yeah.
It is.
Absolutely.
And I will say in sadder news, our St. Louis Cardinals, who are trying to make a push to get back into it, have fallen apart again, and they're back in the basement.
Marmol's got to go.
There's something wrong. There's something seriously wrong with that team.
If you want this team to turn around, you got to let him go. A second-year manager or not, he's got to go.
There's a real problem with that team.
You can't have this talent. You have Nolan Gorman, who's playing out of his mind. You got two incredible superstars on your team that put up 60 home runs and 200 RBIs between them every year.
Well, what's scary with St. Louis? So St. Louis is 14-21 against teams over 500, which means they're 11-14 against teams under 500. They're not beating anybody. Like they're not even winning the series they should win. I mean,
they're just not good.
They don't the same record as Washington.
They're sloppy.
Yeah,
they just play sloppy baseball.
Yikes!
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, they have the most talent probably roster wise in the NL Central, and they just can't put it together.
They can't. And it looked like they were, then they didn't. Yeah, they fell back. They fell apart again. So
yep,
it's a frustrating team to watch. And I've always been a huge Cardinals fan. A lot of history. That city does not take too well and too kindly to this kind of performance, and they're starting to let these guys hear it, which is not common in St. Louis when the players are feeling that kind of pressure from the fans.
No, but it's warranted.
Oh, totally. They've been terrible. They've just been bad, and Goldschmidt's looked like garbage lately. Arenado came to life for a little while. He fell back apart. The pitching staff was good for like 2 weeks. They've been terrible again. It's bad all around. It's bad up and down that lineup, up and down that rotation.
But staying in the NL Central, though, the Pirates have seemed to refound it again, or they found a little bit of traction and maybe an easier bit of their schedule. Because I know they lost 14 out of 18 there for a stretch.
They've not ripped off 5 in a row.
Yep. So I mean, they're back to it. They're still in second place. They're looking good.
Half game out.
The Marlins. We want to talk about them for a second.
Yeah, they've won 3 in a row and 7 of their last 10.
Yeah, Rise is hitting like 396.
What that dude? So do you know the app MLB Play? It's freaking phenomenal. So I do that every night, and I'm trying to get you pick somebody that gets a hit every single night.
Yep.
For 4 nights straight, I just put Luis Arraez.
Why wouldn't you?
As you should
pick him every night.
It's crazy. But
what's amazing is that team has still been outscored by almost 40 runs. And they're still winning games.
They're finding a way to do it, man.
They scratch and claw, man. They scratch and claw.
But if it's only 40, that's gone down a lot, right? Because wasn't it?
It's better.
90 at some point?
It's better than it was. But that's a team that still continues to struggle to score runs. They've scored the fewest so they've scored the fewest runs in the entire National League.
Yeah.
And they're like third fewest in all of baseball.
Jorge Soler and Brian De La Cruz this last month have hit absolute moonshots. Like it seems like 2 or 3 a game. These guys have just rockets. Both of them have just been absolutely tearing it up. But preseason, like you guys kind of laughed at me a little bit when I said this Marlins team is like I thought was going to be kind of like the Red Sox, like a 500 team, but we didn't expect we didn't expect the Phillies to be like this. You know what I mean?
Or the Mets.
Right.
Or the Mets.
Right.
I
didn't laugh at much about Miami being pesky, but laughed I didn't think Miami would be second in the division.
No, no way.
Right.
Not for a minute.
Right? Like it was.
I mean, I didn't really either.
yeah.
So what?
Right.
but
But
yeah,
I mean, the Mets have real problems. The Phillies have real problems. And Miami just continues to hang around.
yeah, and that's all you got to do. So yeah, it's just crazy. Do you guys have any other series of this week that you wanted to touch on or talk about?
You hit on Seattle, Texas was interesting to me. Seattle continues to just struggle to get going. Texas pretty much
Texas
just
put a
manhandled them.
beat down on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Texas manhandled them. I was looking forward to that series to see if Seattle had some life in them. I don't think they do. I think that team they are what they are. That's a team that's going to just bounce around 500, try like hell to maintain relevancy, but they're not. I don't know how that team's gone backwards this year, but they have.
Yeah. All right. How about series for next week? What do we got for matchups coming down?
There's a few really good ones this coming week. So I was looking at making a list earlier. There were where to go? There it is. So you got Houston and Toronto. You got Texas, Tampa Bay. You got the Mets, Atlanta, Red Sox, Yankees. Always love Red Sox, Yankees.
Yeah.
First one of the year.
Yeah, I know, which is funny.
Which
And
is
then Orioles,
crazy.
Brewers, which is like a sneaky good matchup.
Yeah. Orioles, Brewers, Padres, and Mariners. The battle of two struggling teams that shouldn't be
those-
struggling.
Yeah, those I can't watch either one of those teams anymore. I definitely can't watch
Fair.
the Padres. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
That team is just uninspiring and boring.
These are going to be the first 3 Diamondback games that I missed this week because they're in freaking Washington. I'm blacked out.
Of course.
I've watched every game since the beginning of May, so I'm gonna be out for 3 games. So maybe I won't have a Diamondbacks weekly next week. But
Well, and speaking of Washington, we saw that team live and I was impressed with some of what they've got going on down there. That's not a bad team. They're 9 games under 500.
they're young.
They're young, but
really young.
they've got some talent there. Like there is a
Sure.
future with that organization that I thought they were a joke, but I think some of the guys I got for Soto have turned into something. That's not a team that just rolls over.
Yeah, I like them. I like the manager.
Yep.
I like some of the, like you said, some of the young pieces. They're in a tough division.
It is tough.
I think the Braves are the Braves, and it's obviously the class of the division. The Mets should be better. The Phillies should be better. Balanced schedule will help, but they're different than the Red Sox. Like the Red Sox
Yes.
being last place in the American League East, they're still better than the rest of the American League. The
Yes,
Nationals are
right.
not. Like the Nationals
No.
are in the basement of the NL East, but they're not better than. So the balance schedule doesn't really help them that much. Just really it keeps them away from the Braves.
Yeah.
But they're just in a tough spot. But they're a pesky team. They're a pesky team. They're not high on my list of like, oh, I got to watch the Nationals. But
No, but I
if
don't
it's an
avoid
odd
them though.
night where right, exactly. Yeah, if there's
Yeah.
not a lot of games on, like, yeah, sure.
They're not the A's who I just avoid because I can't watch them.
Oh well, Jesus, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not the A's and the Kansas City Royals who I just can't watch because they're that bad.
God. And then what was it? They played a couple weeks ago and they had like an attendance of like less than 2,000 or
Yeah,
something.
12
like
people.
that. It's so crazy.
12
Well-
people is just like the family of the players.
I also saw a post that they were bragging about how it was like the highest weekend attendance ever for a major league game. And somebody commented, they go, yeah, that's because the Royals, the Athletics, and the Rockies were all on the road. Like, what? I mean,
There's some
kinda
truth
makes
to that.
sense. Like math makes sense, but
That makes a lot of sense that they're somewhere else.
oh man. All right, let's move on to the rounding third question that I put out, which was if you could manage a team right now this year, who would it be and why?
Whoa.
Who wants to take this one first? We did get some answers, but I want to hear from the experts first.
It's got to be the Rays, right?
I mean, that to me is like the obvious answer is the Rays because
mean,
they
that's
just
the
keep cranking
chalk.
out like
Right, like that's the chalk. I mean, I could sleep on the bench and that team would win. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't. And not to take away
Easy,
from
La
Kevin
Russa.
Cash because I think Kevin Cash is really good, but
Yeah, I think for all the crap we gave Kevin Cash for being overrated, I think that what he's proven this year is that he is
I
actually
never did.
well,
I
same.
love Kevin Cash.
The collective we, meaning more so Nick and I kind of supported him. I think Kevin Cash at times tends to overmanage a game. I do feel like
Yes.
he's done a really good job this year of letting things happen and letting the players play, unlike he's done, unlike his history. And this team has been lights out. I think the Rays are the obvious choice. I would actually say if I could manage any team this year, I'm going to toss up between the Orioles and the Pirates because I just
Yeah.
like the attitude of those teams. I like the way they approach the game, like the way they play, like the roster. The Rays to me, I mean, I love watching Randy Arozarena. I can't imagine managing that guy. He's got to be a freaking basket case in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Rays do have a couple of guys. Wander Franco is kind of weird too. There's a couple of guys there that I think would be challenging. I love the Orioles. I'm now like the biggest Adley Rutschman fan after seeing some of the videos he's done lately, like talking to the fans. The dude is just like about as normal as they get. Like that team is just so laid back.
They have like the right balance of veteran guys, Santander and Mullins and guys that have been there for a few years, and the young guys coming up, like the O's. I'm with you. I would love to manage the O's, have a shot at that this year.
Yeah.
And
I'd love
then
to manage the Padres to be like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? But
for about a day.
I'd say
Like,
aside from Tampa, like my real answer would probably be Texas.
that's a fun
Get
team.
a shot at the Rangers just with that offense and just put some different pieces in the lineup and kind of move people up and down, the Adolis Garcias and all that.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a fun team to get in the locker room with day in and day out.
Dude, Bochy has every fifth day on his calendar circled. Yep, Evaldi got 9 innings. Bullpen, you guys don't even have to come to the park today.
Yeah, take the day off.
Like that dude has just gone out and just gone 8 innings, 9 innings, 8 innings, 9 innings. It's like,
I mean, obviously he will come back to earth because like
Correct.
no one can do this for an extended period of time, but
Nope.
he is just the last 6 starts have been absolutely dominant.
They have not missed Jacob DeGrom because of him. Like they haven't noticed that.
It's been nuts. Yeah, and then obviously like the team that I've been really high on is the Diamondbacks. I would love to be out there. Like, just a fun young team with some veterans on there. And I'm still not sure who won that trade, that Dalton Varsho trade for Lourdes Gurriel and Gabriel Moreno. Because
I feel like Varsho's a bit overrated.
So
I think he's
Varsho
a
had
good player, but
he had a great start to the season and has kind of come back down to earth. But the amount of offense and defense from Moreno that the Diamondbacks got in that trade, Gurriel, has been on a tear offensively. And Moreno's really solid behind the plate. He's probably one of the top defensive catchers in the league, honestly.
And I saw a breakdown of Varsho, and Varsho's value is partly driven by him being able to catch. When you put him in the field, he is a basically at replacement player level. Behind the plate,
really,
he's better than
replacement
level.
He was a Gold Glove nominee in right field last year.
When you break down, I got to go find it. When you break down his career WAR, the majority of his WAR comes at the catcher position.
Well, that's not saying much for the catcher position, though.
Well, it's not. It's a low bar. He's like just a bit over replacement player level in the outfield. That one season included. But most of his value comes from when he's behind the plate because he's an average outfielder. But when you take that offense and you put it at the catcher position, he looks like a superstar.
Yeah, fair. But I think the trade has paid off for both. Yeah, I think the trade's paid off for both of them. But
yeah, I mean nobody's lost that trade. And I will say I love Torey Lovullo. He is a great baseball guy. It is so nice to finally see that team be good because that guy has paid his dues to finally have a team that's good.
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Some viewer answers we got. Steve Bass said the team with the worst record, so I could get a huge buyout with little work.
I mean, that's a strategic play right there.
Yeah. Okay. Brian Sawyer said the Pirates, no expectations, beautiful park, and I'm closer to Steelers Nation. So, also another
not a bad answer.
Jim Britt said the Padres roster is absolutely loaded right now.
Yep.
I came back with a question. Would you want to manage all those egos though? And his response,
when they're winning, yes. When they're losing, no.
right?
Yeah, good answer.
His response to this is absolutely hilarious. I haven't managed anything but a video store in the early 2000s, but I was pretty good at that, so sure.
Blockbuster, the San Diego Padres.
So good. So good. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a plethora of young players coming up that would be a lot of fun to manage, and a lot of teams that haven't been good for a while that are starting to become good. The teams we just said, the Rangers, the Orioles, the Diamondbacks, Pirates, those teams would be fun.
I know.
I think managing in Wrigley every day would be a blast too.
I know. Sean's real answer is he wants to manage the Yankees to prove how much Aaron Boone sucks.
Oh, good.
That's where he wants to go.
Buddy, my 4-year-old nephew could do that.
Don't even need the big guns. We can just send the kids in.
My God.
I mean, hell, at least he can get tossed as often as Boone does.
Oh, for sure.
I still can't get over that. 4 times already this year, 3 in the last 10 games. That was last week. We talked about that. Just go home.
Yeah, and then we were laughing about Bobby Cox's all-time record at 162, which basically meant the guy spent the entire season ejected.
Yeah, hilarious. I love Bobby Cox, though.
he's an absolute classic, and I think the next closest guy is like 40 games behind him. Not even close.
Yeah. But Boone's only been in since 2017, right? Something like that.
Yeah, 30 ejections.
And he's already got 30 ejections.
Yeah, he'll be on the all-time list here in a few years, assuming that the Yankees continue to pay him to suck.
He won't have a job that long.
God,
all right.
If he does, then there's something wrong. He's got pictures of somebody.
I agree. Kind of like Brazier. But anyways, okay, heading home. We're gonna go over some of our player of the month for the month of May. To start here, we got player of the month. The AL player of the month was none other than the Judge himself. I mean,
that dude's been red hot. Oh my God.
342, 12 homers, 25 RBIs, 20 walks, a 1.356 OPS in 21 games.
Like the guy's hitting home runs, he's robbing home runs. Like he's been the only thing that Yankees team has had for about 3 weeks.
I loved that Twitter exchange between him. Yeah.
That too.
That Twitter exchange between him and Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was so great. Judge robs a homer, and Teoscar Hernandez was like, "Hey, dude, how about no?" or something like that.
Yeah, why you gotta do me like that?
Yeah, and Judge is like, "I've seen plenty of your balls sail over my head. I owed you one." It's like fair enough.
Yep, it was awesome.
NL Player of the Month, Freddie Freeman.
Freddie continues to not hit for a lot of power, but the guy just hits line drives in the gap all day.
Yep. He closed out May with a 20-game hitting streak, recorded a 400 batting average, 6 homers, 17 doubles, 26 ribbies, 12 walks, a 1.184 OPS over 28 games. So 28 games, he must have played every game in the month of May.
Yeah, the dude's hitting 331. I mean, he's got 80 hits on the season. Like, and he's hit like 3 home runs in the last week, so he's now at 10. He'd gone a while there with no home runs, but the guy is just a hitting machine. Just a machine.
I mean, Chavez Ravine's a bomb to get it out of there. You have to hit it hard to get out.
It's a poke.
Yep.
The guy just hits.
Yep. Then we got AL pitcher of the month is none other than the guy we literally just kept talking about, was Nathan Eovaldi.
As it should be. He pitched every inning there was.
A complete game shutout in his final start in April. He went 4-0 in May with a .96 ERA, 31 strikeouts over 37 and 2/3 innings in 5 starts. So he averaged 7+ innings a start.
Yep. And gave up less than a run.
He was just absolutely filthy that entire month.
Unconscious. And Marcus Stroman had a hell of a run too.
Yes, he did. And he possibly could have won NL pitcher of the month, but
yep. I think he was pitcher of the week, but he's been on a hell of a run too.
Yeah, he one hit the Rays.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
No.
And
All right.
and it wasn't like they were hitting a bunch of like laser beams at people that got caught. Like they didn't hit anything hard all day.
Right. So this one, these two really hurt because as you'll tell me what the common factor is here. Pitcher of the month, Michael Walker. So the common denominator there is they both pitched for the Sox last year, and now they're pitchers of the month. So Walker went 3-0 with a .84 ERA, 26 Ks, 32 innings, and 5 starts.
And yet that team is still 5 games under 5. They've made up no ground, and they got the pitcher of the month.
He only allowed 3 extra base hits all month. All month.
And he dominated the Red Sox when he pitched against them. My God.
Crazy. My God. All right.
And this guy didn't get signed until what? February or March?
Yeah, it was late.
Yeah, he was late.
He was just sitting out there waiting for somebody to call.
Yep.
That's worked out pretty well. He's 5-2 with a 3.48 ERA. He's the best pitcher the Padres have right now. That's an amazing thought.
And the best hitter that the Padres have right now, they just got last week, and Gary Sanchez.
Although Juan Soto's run into a few lately. He's hit some home runs, but his batting average is still terrible. He's like 250.
Yeah. AL Rookie of the Month, we got Josh Young. We've actually brought him up on the podcast before. Yep. This kid, if you haven't watched him play yet, this kid's for real. Really he's going to be around.
He is very good.
He's a third baseman. His final 14 games, he has a hitting streak in his final 14 games in May. 4 homers, 5 doubles, 12 RBIs, 1.284 OPS in that span. And during the month, he hit 318. So that's over 26 games.
And that's Young with a J, right?
Yes, Young. It's a soft J. I believe it's yogging.
Yeah.
It's a new fad where apparently you just run.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be wild.
He yogs around the bases, yeah.
And
you want to hear a fun Josh Young stat?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
He's the only one. I think I saw this. I'll fact check myself. He's the only one in Major League Baseball to hit at least 1 home run in every inning. So like he's hit 1 in the first, the second, the third, all the way through the ninth.
That's a funny stat.
There's a whole bunch of guys that have had like 8 out of the 9 and they're just missing 1 inning, but Josh Young's the only one to hit a home run in all 9 innings.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Baseball.
Yep, baseball.
NL Rookie of the Month. This kid, if you haven't heard of him, you're going to, because this kid has been on a tear. Spencer Steer for the Reds. Oh. He pretty much destroyed the Red Sox by himself this week.
Torched him.
He collected 25 hits and 64 at-bats in the month of May. It's a 391 average. He finished with 6 homers, 19 RBIs, 945 OPS in 27 games. Bringing up the Reds real quick, there was just an absolute push for Elly De La Cruz all of a sudden to get him out of the minors. If you haven't seen this kid,
oh my goodness,
this kid is like exactly like O'Neal Cruz.
Yep.
Yeah, it's bombs.
But the same size. Like he's like O'Neal Cruz to me, like 6'7", wiry.
Yeah, he's been all over the sports news lately, just out of the blue. A name that nobody heard until like 2 weeks ago when he started to surface. But he's doing crazy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I knew of him.
Yep.
But not to this level. But everyone is pushing for him to come up for the Reds. And I mean, the Reds are what? They're battling for a wild card spot.
They are.
So I mean, it's crazy. I mean, anything can happen in that NL Central, to be completely honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, it's way more wide open than it was expected to be.
Yep. We don't really care about relievers of the month. But anyways, sorry about it, Alex Lang and Camilo Doval. But
great.
All right. Next thing I got is Trevor Story could be making his return as a designated hitter before the All-Star break. So we might see ourselves a little Bryce Harper Jr. here before the All-Star break. So that's what, about a month away? Roughly, yeah. Hopefully. They're hopeful that he's ready to be back before the All-Star break.
I mean, originally the Red Sox were hoping they'd see him by August, and it was kind of like, well, maybe not this year. We'll see how it goes. It sounds like it's going great. He's already rehabbing. He's throwing to a certain extent. It'd be nice to see him back because I mean I know he's only going to DH for a little while, but it'd be nice to see a real shortstop play because again, Kike's got great range, great glove, gets to everything. He just can't throw the ball across the field. It'd be nice to see a shortstop in there that can.
And Mondesi's nowhere to be found, right? We don't even know his
injury. Well, the Red Sox just DFA'd Tapia, which also caught me by surprise.
Oh, I didn't even know that they did.
Yeah, they DFA'd him today.
Yeah, that was today.
Huh.
So I think that's more so they can send him down, but anybody could grab him, and he hasn't been bad.
So I think that what that kind of does is it moves Kike to the outfield for he's their fourth outfielder, and then they put Perez at short like they had today.
Well, they got Arroyo. It was to make room for Arroyo. Yep. They got Yu Chang coming back.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they're going to make up kind of their middle infield here. I think that's spot on with Kike. I think he's going back to be the fourth outfielder.
Yu Chang is sleepily also a very harsh injury too. Like early, he was hitting well and doing well for the Sox.
Yeah.
And then
he was not just hitting well. He's a great defender.
He is
very
good.
That's what he gives. He gives you the defense that Kike lacks.
Yeah. And Tapia is hitting 264 with a home run, 10 RBIs, 6 stolen bases. Like he added a fun kind of speed dynamic to the team. He didn't get DFA'd for performance. He got DFA'd to make a roster spot because you got guys coming back. But I mean, I think Chang coming back helps. That gives him some time with Story. But it'd be nice to get a legitimate shortstop back in the lineup because it's hard watching Kike out there.
Agree. Let's just stay with the Red Sox then. Chris Sale heading to the 15-day IL. We kind of touched on it a little bit earlier with shoulder inflammation is what he was diagnosed with. Hopefully it's nothing serious and he just needs a little bit of time off. Like he's just not used to pitching that well for that long.
They're playing it off as he's just needing some rest because he hasn't thrown this many innings and his shoulder's a little worn out, but we'll see. Whenever you hear about shoulder or elbow inflammation, that's usually a sign something's angry. Hopefully rest makes it go away, but you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this one, we've brought up Liam Hendriks since he's been back, which has been really cool. That whole story, him coming out of the bullpen and stuff last week. But he got his first win back on Cancer Survivors Day, which was really, really cool. Yeah, perfect. And then I want to bring this question up to you guys to see how you feel about it because, the MLB usually can't leave well enough alone when it comes to playoff formats. It seems like, we have the same playoff system for 2 or 3 years and then it gets all flipped around again. So this is my question to you guys. If the AL East finish above 500, will the MLB look at reformatting the playoffs again in the future? What do we think?
I think it would be a while. I think it would have to be a while. If you have one division that all finishes over 500 one time, I mean, that's never happened before. I don't think that warrants any changes. I mean, if you get that 3, 4, 5 years in a row, and then it's like, all right, let's just go crazy and do away with divisions, right? Because the idea, at least with divisions, the way I see it, really in all the sports, there should be a reward for winning your division. Yep. If you win your division, you should make the postseason. So if you're just going to go kind of top 8 in the American League, top 8 in the National League, regardless of divisions, then just do away with divisions. The balanced schedule is kind of already doing that.
Yep.
Right. So, I mean, it's that groundwork has kind of already been laid. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I don't think Major League Baseball would be in any kind of rush to update or make changes to the playoff format. But I mean, they've surprised us before, so who knows? But I'd be shocked if we see any changes to this current one within the next 5 years. I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I don't think it's a quick decision, and I agree with Sean. I said it back in February when they first kind of rolled this balanced schedule out. If you're going to go with a balanced schedule, you really kind of defeat the purpose of divisions because now the battle within the divisions is really less about the battle within divisions, more about the battle across the entire league. So I could see MLB maybe over time when new teams come in, maybe realigning, going to more of like a conference format like the NBA, the top 8 or whatever, the top however many make it. Maybe you've got some divisional tiebreaker type stuff, but if you're going to stay balanced schedule over time, you will eventually erode the need for divisions, and MLB may have to address it then. I like having the divisions. I like that meaning something, but a balanced schedule doesn't let that mean anything. So that's the trick to that.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't mean as much.
Yeah, my fear, I guess, for lack of a better word, is that the AL East stays like this for 4 years, and the 5th place team in the AL East could have won the AL Central or the AL West. That's my fear. And in 4 years, the Red Sox are sitting there, 82-82. They could have won the Central, they could have won the West, and they finished last in the AL East.
Yeah,
like that's gonna. I feel, especially with this balanced schedule, be like, hey, like, what the hell? Like, we're beating all the teams that these guys are losing to, and they're getting into the playoffs, and we're not. That's where I'm at with that.
I could see the owners making a stink if you've got like, the team that's in 5th place in the American League East has like the 7th best record in the league, and they don't make the playoffs because of the way that's set up. I could see that being a problem. If you're a 500 team and you're arguing about like one team you were better than,
right?
I think MLB just kind of goes, well, tough. Like, you were a 500 team, suck it up.
Right.
But if you've got a team in the AL East consistently winning 86, 87, 88 games and missing the playoffs because they were 6th or 7th best record in the league, like, I could see the owners finally raising the stink with MLB saying, this is ridiculous. Like, we need to reward the teams that are better and do something about it. But
right. Yeah, they were the 6th or 7th worst record in the league, but they were the 5th worst record in the division.
It's like, if you're the tallest midget, there's no award for that.
Well, it's like we said at the beginning of like, if this scenario plays out for 3, 4, 5 years in a row, then I do think a change will be made. Yep. I just don't think they'll be hastily doing it after 1 year, and this may not even happen. I mean, we're still in June 5th here, but let's play it out and say, let's say the entire American League East, the worst team is an 86 win team, then that would suck for the year. Sure. But if we go right back into next year and that doesn't happen again, well, then it's an anomaly.
Yep.
However,
so
baseball does make snap decisions on postseasons, though. If you look at, I brought it up before, the Colorado and Cardinals 163, and Matt Holliday goes in and takes his face off at home plate and wins it to get him to the playoffs. MLB the next year was like, wild card game. Let's do it. Play in wild card game. So, I mean, like, as much as I agree with you guys, I think you should let this play out for 2 or 3 years. It also wouldn't surprise me if MLB just goes, you know what? Screw it. Let's do it.
I don't see MLB doing anything before you've got the 2 expansion teams settled in, the A's in Vegas. You got enough stuff moving around. You don't need to mess with that right now. So I could see them, to Sean's point, come back in 3 or 4 years and going, okay, like, we finally know what the look is going to be around the league. The new teams are figured out. The A's are moving. Their ballpark's going to be ready. Like, now look at what we're doing, but not like next year.
But just in fairness, though, Nick, just to tie that point home, I agree with you on that. But Major League Baseball did that wild card play-in game because the playoff format up until that point, I think they felt was stale. And they felt like they were losing eyeballs, and they needed to bring people to the game, and this was a way to turn TVs on and all this stuff. And like, I think they're trending in that direction. They're getting eyeballs back on TVs.
Yep.
Why mess with it now?
Well, they stole the idea from the NCAA with the play-in games. Like,
right.
It's like this little bonus playoff round that you get and whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it just, as much as I agree with you guys, it also wouldn't shock me at all. It
wouldn't totally shock me. No, I agree.
But I tend to lean towards your point, Harrison, about, the 2 possible expansion teams coming in the next 3 or 4 years. The A's moving to Vegas, like you said.
You're going to have to realign anyways, so.
Yeah. And are they going to go to 4 divisions in each? Are they going to have a northeast, west, south?
They got enough stuff to figure out between now and 2027. They don't need to mess with the playoff format just yet.
I agree.
Figuring that out, that's going to solve the playoff issue in itself.
It should.
All those things, that's going to fall into place.
Yeah, it should all be part of the same solution as you realign things.
Agree. All right. And the last thing that I have is there's rumors floating around that HBO is making a documentary about Barry Bonds. I hope this is true. I hope it comes out. They said it's starting to come to fruition. So it hasn't started taping or anything, but they released that they are going to make one. Thoughts, feelings on it? What would you guys like to see in about it, or see in it?
Give me all of it, man.
I just want to know what actually happened. Like, give us the real Balco story. Like, what was really going on in San Francisco? And I will say Barry Bonds is historically a very closed off person. He shares very little. He's very private. I mean, look around now. Where's Barry Bonds? Like, the guy retired and disappeared. Not a lot of athletes can do that. Barry Bonds
was a hitting coach in Miami.
Right. But I mean, like in terms of the spotlight, like he's just like,
gone. Yeah.
Not a lot of guys can do that. I mean, even Mark McGwire didn't do that. It took him a couple of years to be able to kind of fall off the radar, but he's a super private guy. I'd love to know the real story behind what happened in San Francisco, what was going on, what wasn't going on, how much of that crap was made up, how much of that was true. I don't think you'll get that because Bonds would tarnish his legacy. I think if you actually had the whole story, I guess to whatever legacy there's still left.
I was going to say tarnish his legacy.
If I'm Bonds, I want the whole story to come out. Like, if you're going to tarnish my legacy, at least know why. Or if you tarnish my legacy for no reason, I want to be able to fix that. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'll be curious what you get out of him because he's a very private guy. But that story in San Francisco and his time there is absolutely fascinating. Some of the most ridiculous seasons you'll ever see in baseball history.
Oh yeah.
I want those early Pirate years too. Like, give me those early Pittsburgh Pirates
40 years.
Yeah.
His first 40-40 year was in San Francisco, actually.
San Francisco, I know, yeah.
But he was pretty close to a 40-40.
He was leading up to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with Sean. I want the whole thing. Give me the entire story.
Give me the whole story.
Give me a 8-part 2 hours each. I don't care. Like, I got nowhere to be.
Yeah, so I'll ride along for that.
Like, give me all of it.
Yeah.
And I saw the same thing too, Nick. I it's going to be same producers that did The Last Dance, which I thought was phenomenal. I thought they did a great job with that. So if that's true, then I'm even more excited.
Man,
he's a fascinating character that I feel like we know almost nothing about.
Again,
and he could hit a baseball.
Yes, right? He could. He could hit with the lights out.
Again, like being a West Coast guy too, and being East Coast, we never yes, we saw him, but we never
not much
saw him.
And we didn't have the access that's available now too,
right?
TV and stuff like that.
Yeah. Most of what he did, we saw in Baseball Tonight and Sports Center. That's all we got.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Do you guys have anything else tonight, this week?
That's it.
No, man. Just happy to be back with you, boys.
It was good to have you back.
Glad to have you back. I do have one little thing to add. This was show number 90. So the countdown to our 100th show is on, which is nuts.
That's
I can't
crazy.
believe it's already been that, but it's pretty cool. So, yeah, countdown is on. So probably, what's the math on that? August?
10 weeks, yeah, put you in August.
Yeah, something like that.
All right. So we'll have to try to figure out something special to do for our 100th episode here.
Yep.
But yeah. All right. So just like, share, subscribe, all of the above. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Keep a lookout for our reels. And we will see y'all next Monday at 8 p.m. sharp.
See you guys.
See you, boys.